of justice are accepted as part of the natural order of things. Each person fits into a divinely recognized scheme. Dynasties rise and fall according to what the Chinese used to call the mandate of heaven, but life for the peasant changes little. Everything depends on the wisdom of the ruler. In the 11th century BC, the Israelites, having trouble with the Philistines, went to the prophet Samuel, who ruled them, and asked to have a king who would both judge them and lead them in battle. Samuel warned against this move, advising that such a king would seize their property and enslave their energies. But they insisted that they wanted to be like other nations, and a king they must have. King, in this Middle Eastern context, meant a ruler who would deal despotically with them, a governor quite different from the constitutional rulers of Europe. As it happened, the Israelites were fortunate to have in Saul, David, and Solomon a line of notable rulers who gave Israel a short taste of order and even some international glory. Solomon's solution to the problem of two women both claiming the same baby is but the most famous example of his legendary wisdom. But even these monarchs proved oppressive, and in the end the burden of paying for Solomon's grand schemes split Israel apart. Despotism is a catch-all category containing large variations. In one form or another, non-European civilizations have almost invariably been ruled despotically. The Western imagination, however, has generally been repelled by despots. Cruel pharaohs, deranged Roman emperors like Caligula and Nero, exotic and remote emperors in India or China. In Europe, the desire for despotic power must disguise itself. Europeans have sometimes been beguiled by a despotism that comes concealed in the seductive form of an ideal, as it did in the cases of Hitler and Stalin. This fact may remind us that the possibility of despotism is remote neither in space nor in time. Many countries are still ruled in this manner, and it can threaten pain or death at any moment. It is like living in a madhouse. Today, we define despotism, along with dictatorship and totalitarianism, as a form of government. This would have horrified the classical Greeks, whose very identity and sense of superiority to other peoples was based on distinguishing themselves from the despotism endured by their Eastern neighbors. What this contrast reveals is that politics is so central to our civilization that its meaning changes with every change of culture and circumstance. For this reason, our first move in trying to understand politics must be to free ourselves from the unreflective beliefs of the present. One aim of this book is to explain how it came about that what used to be a limited activity conducted by the elites of some Western countries is now thought to be the inescapable preoccupation of mankind. We need to look first at the value the classical Greeks attached to politics. What the Greeks knew above all was that they were not Orientals. They often admired the magnificent cultures of Eastern empires such as Egypt or Persia, but usually disdained the way in which they were ruled. They called this foreign system despotism because it seemed no different from the relation between a master and his slaves. As warriors, the Greeks despised the practice by which subjects coming into the presence of an Oriental ruler prostrated themselves. They found this an intolerable form of inequality between citizens and their rulers. Over 2,000 years later, we inherit precisely the same reflex rejection of prostration, partly because the language of prostration has become the image by which Christianity recognizes the distance between the human and the divine. When we discuss these matters, we often use the Latin term domination. The Greek despotes and the Roman dominus both signify the specific form of power exercised by the master of slaves. The modern use of dictatorship and the 20th century coinage of totalitarianism are among the many recent signs of the undiminished centrality of this idea in our self-understanding. The essence of despotism is that there is no appeal, either in practice or in law, against the unchecked power